Well, welcome. I'm Brad Avery, and we're going to be doing a series of talks about really the inner workings of our city. And it'll be kind of an amazing journey as we go through different departments, so residents become more aware of what it takes to run this great city of ours and the challenges we face. And then I think, as most council members have learned, just how well run the city is and what a great team we have here in Newport Beach, protecting us, making sure everything runs correctly, and fixing what goes wrong as quick as possible. So today I'm here with Mark Vukojevic. He's our Director of Utilities, but he's been with Public Works many years before that. And good morning, Mark.
Hi, Brad. Good morning.
Good morning. And just tell me, how did you come to the city and then eventually wind up from Public Works over to Utilities?
Oh, sure. Great. Thanks for inviting me to be here, too. So, yeah, my background is a civil engineer, and everything from roads to utilities and things like that, too. And of course, 7 years ago, I came to Public Works from the city of Anaheim, where I was the city engineer there, and had a lot of focus on utility work. And so I ended up becoming the utilities director, thanks to the selection by the city manager. And boy, it's really a fascinating job. All aspects of kind of the city and this engineering world that's there in terms of how we build and maintain the city is really fascinating. And then utilities is that specialty group, and I've had a lot of experience in there, and that's really what civil engineers love doing.
Right, and I always think of, and I've had a tour of the utilities department, and I call it the most interesting department in Newport Beach for sure. And we're going to learn more here from Mark, but there's a lot going on, and it's more than meets the eye, that's for sure. So just circling back, and I just want to ask you, you have some experience with Eagle Scouts. Could you tell me about that?
Sure. Well, I have two boys that are in the scouting program right now and really close to becoming Eagles. And then I'm, of course, an assistant scoutmaster with our troop as well. So I've been scouting and camping for many years now. So yeah, that's on the fun side of things.
Such a great program.
Yeah.
It's so good for boys and girls and to go through the program. It's amazing. I've got a number of friends whose kids became Eagle Scouts, and it was quite a journey. And it was great to be at their awards. What do they call the ceremony? The
Court of Honor.
Court of Honor.
Court of Honor, yeah.
And I've had a couple mentees that have gone through that. Mm-hmm. It's something. So along the lines of the most interesting department in Newport Beach.
You probably want to know what we do there.
About the scope of the operation, yes.
Well, okay, it is certainly interesting. I don't know if it's the most interesting, but thank you for that. So a lot of things associated with water. So the entire water system for the city, in terms of all the water that's delivered to your door, through the pipes, of course, to our fire hydrants, all of your wastewater, your sewage. Our whole department manages that portion of it, which is taking all of that wastewater, cleaning those lines, and then sending it off to the county. Drainage has been a big topic in the community news recently too. We manage the city's drainage system, and it's more, let's call it tricky, because we have these tide valves where we have to open and close tide valves because of our beach and harbor elevations. Another thing that we also manage is our street sweeping program. So, which is because that's tied in with our storm drains. We want to make sure that we sweep our streets and get all these things out of the streets before they end up in the storm drain pipes and then right into our harbor and ocean. And another one is street lights too. We have 6,000 some street lights. We operate and maintain and own all of those street lights, and so we have electricians on staff doing that. And lastly, kind of one of our unique ones is we operate the city's oil system, oil pumps. We have 16 oil wells that we manage as well too. So that gives you kind of the umbrella of utilities here in Newport. Yeah.
That's really something. And I imagine the oil business is doing okay?
Well, it's much better than it was yesterday. So, or yesterday, excuse me, much better than it was last year. And so the fund is stable, and we're producing oil, and oil is a continuous thing. You always got to keep working on maintaining your wells, but it's been really productive, and we stay pretty actively involved in that.
And the wells are located?
Right there off a coast highway behind Cappy's.
Right.
And where the Seminix Slough is, right there you can see them. That's where we have all of our wells, right at that corner. Yeah.
So water is cropping up in the news if people have been paying attention, and that it appears that we may well be entering into another period of drought. We're sort of been in a period of drought, but we're below the rainfall, average rainfall considerably. And so from your perspective, what's the future of our water supply, and what I know we get water from several different sources, so
yeah.
I think, and residents I think would be very interested in that.
Sure. So there's a couple different ways to look at our water, but I'll stick with where we come from, and then what are we doing to protect that too. So 75% of our water comes from groundwater wells that we have in the city of Fountain Valley. So we pump that water almost 7 to 8 miles from Fountain Valley into our system. And then the other 25% comes from Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. And that either comes from Northern California State Water Project, or it comes from the Colorado River and the Colorado River Aqueduct. So that makes up about 25%. Our groundwater is our primary source. This year, through some special incentives, we're probably going to be pumping 90 to 95% groundwater, which is exciting. And the reason for that is that we have a really well-managed groundwater basin. So the agency, Orange County Water District, is literally counting how many drops go in and how many drops go out. And they've done a great job of managing that. So we have some extra water now that we could pump out of there, and we're taking advantage of that. And a lot of things in Southern California, there's been some great leadership in terms of filling up our reservoirs and trying to prepare us for an upcoming drought. And we can talk about that too if you'd like some more. And so having a local groundwater source puts us in a very, very good position. Our history, which we have some of our history books here, was based on groundwater. And then back in the 50s and 60s, we went away from groundwater and went to more of that imported water from the Colorado River and Northern California. But back in the 90s, the city leaders really had tremendous vision in getting us back into the groundwater business, and that's been outstanding. And groundwater is, super high quality, and there's a lot of people that envy the water that we're getting out of our groundwater basin.
And so, do we get water from the sanitation district and the groundwater replenishment system?
Sure.
That's part of it?
That's part of it. So the future is all about water recycling too. And the county, Orange County Sanitation District and Orange County Water District partnered, along with all of us cities too, to take as much of that wastewater, recycle it using reverse osmosis and all of these other filtration techniques, and then they put it back up into the ground in the aquifers, and then the basin itself refilters it all again too, and it adds water to our portfolio, and it's not direct reuse, but it's indirect reuse, and that's really the future. And you can see all across the state now, other agencies are trying to replicate that model.
Right.
So we're very fortunate to be a part of that early on, and that's visionary leadership in doing that, and putting us into a good position moving forward with future droughts.
Right. And then I didn't realize, but the replenishment system is actually defending the aquifer against saltwater intrusion.
That's right. Being so close to the ocean here, there are certain pockets where the seawater wants to push back and go into our groundwater basin. And the system that they developed, which is back from the 70s, now they're using this same water and it has all these series of groundwater wells that inject water back in, hold back the seawater to make sure that our groundwater basin stays fresh so we can use it and pump from it.
Yeah.
It's really something else. And people are ever interested, going to the Orange County Water District website to see a virtual tour of it, it's something else. You'll be amazed.
Yeah, it's extraordinary, the resources. And then do all cities participate in the aquifer?
Not all. I mean, it's really kind of a North Orange County basin. So all of the cities that are in South and South Orange County don't have a groundwater basin like we have. So there's 19 agencies that pump from that groundwater basin, and we're one of the 19.
Okay.
And so we're very fortunate to have that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so you can look. The way you can visualize it is the Santa Ana River. When you see a river, as I've been told, right above that river, below that river, there's usually groundwater there. And that's the idea. That whole basin, as we get across from Fountain Valley all the way up to Anaheim, is a big, humongous groundwater basin. It's a big, huge underground bowl. And then, maybe one of the good things about our Newport Inglewood Fault is that's one of the dams for our south-facing basin.
We didn't have to build it.
No, it was there naturally.
What about, I know a lot of residents go, I don't think I would drink tap water in Newport. They buy all their water. But obviously, the tap water is very much drinkable. And what about water security, and how does that work? There must be, I'm sure you do a lot of testing.
We do. We do thousands and thousands of tests every year. And as the tests even get more and more sophisticated, we keep adding those different tests to find out what's in the water, if anything. And then we mail out a report once a year, which is going out in June, to every resident that lists out everything that we find in our water. But it's really high quality. I drink it myself every single day, and I have a high confidence in it, and so does our staff. And we have all of these automated systems. When you think about back in the day, we would pump, and there'd literally be a person living there checking on things, and some rudimentary tests and things like that. But now we have so much sophistication with our pumping and our detection systems, where we're continually detecting different levels in the actual water as it's leaving our site. And then we go out to all of these different neighborhood locations, and we take samples, and we're checking and verifying. And that's what it's really built upon, a kind of a redundancy system where we can go and check and verify everything. And we're doing really well, and we have some great water.
Yeah, we're just so fortunate to have such a department in the city, and then have these bigger public agencies filling and protecting the aquifer. But still, even with all of this, with a continuing drought, and if it continues on, we're going to need to do more to conserve, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, I think conservation as a way of life is kind of an important motto. And our job, our responsibility as a utility is to provide water. Right? I mean, that's really kind of as a core mission. We're here to provide water. Now, what we're telling everyone is hey, use it wisely, because it does all add up in terms of how much we have. And there are literally very simple things that people could do. Right? I mean, if you see your sprinkler spraying your sidewalk, that's a simple fix, right? And you could save water that way too. I brought a little timer thing too, that some people have these in their showers. I think they're really good for kids, but the idea is you push this button and you can buy these things. Some of them are digital, some of them are old-fashioned, and you can time your shower, right? And hey, can you get your shower done in 5 minutes? Yeah, I think that's a great goal to have. Yeah,
absolutely. I've always thought that I would love to have in my home, like in the kitchen, 3 meters, right? Just showing it digitally quite large, what you're burning at that time. So water, gas, and electric.
Yeah.
And then comparisons, and I think it would really help with conservation, because people would look at it and go, "Whoa, what's going on? The wheels are turning here, and nothing's on." I think, right?
Exactly. Well, we have one thing that we're working on right now that's going to help with that, and I brought this to show you as well too. So we're in the process right now of installing these digital water meters, and it's a digital dial screen. and we're replacing them right now as we speak, and we'll be done by sometime next year. But the neat thing about this is that this thing sends a signal. This is a battery that lasts 20 years, and it sends a signal every day, and from that, we're going to have residents have the ability to see their actual water use in near real time. Maybe not real time, but near real time. And the cool thing about that is you can go back and say, like, oh yeah, okay, let's see. Well, I was cooking dinner from 4 to 5. I wonder how much water I used for that in the dishes, or you know, different toilet flushes in the middle of the night. But the other thing, which is the key thing on water conservation, is fixing leaks. Right. You would be surprised how much a leaky toilet can use up, and this is going to detect that, right? If it finds that water is being used continuously through the night, it sends an alarm, and you can go and find that leaky toilet. You know, an average house uses about 8,000 gallons a month of water. You think about that, right? I mean, that's you know, your big fuel tanker truck that you see. You know, it's about that much every month is what most houses use.
Right.
And so if you use it for what you need, use it wisely, and then if we could find where these leaks are happening, you know, that saves everybody water. Yeah,
yeah, I know from on boats, most of the water goes down the galley sink, the kitchen sink.
Yeah.
And if you put a square pail, if you will, on the sink when you're washing dishes and just contain it all there, and really, that you save so much water. It's incredible. And so I think those kinds of things can go a long way. It's a tremendous amount of water, 8,000 gallons a month.
Yeah.
But you know, I think certainly the meter, that'll help tremendously. So when will that be finished, do you think?
Well, we're about 20% done, and we'll be done by probably the end of 2022. So we still got another year and a half to go. But as we change out your meter, we're going to be, you'll know that, and people will start having access to see their water use as they go on. Yeah. And then help with any of their water conservation and trying to fix their leaks if they find them.
Right. You know, we heard a lot about desalinization as well, and I know that's very energy intensive. It's expensive, but Poseidon is it still on track, or?
Yeah, so the plan is you know, to build some sort of desalinization plant right there in Huntington Beach. And so, I mean, my last understanding of it is that it's still kind of working its way through the process in terms of getting permits and so on. And it's kind of a polarizing topic. There's a lot of people that support it, and then there's a lot of people that are adamantly against it. But there's a group in the middle too. And you have a lot of positives and negatives. I think, you know, one of them that being positive is, hey, it's an additional water supply if we need it. The negative is you know, the cost, and then there's some environmental impacts and things like that.
Right.
And those are what are all the state agencies right now are weighing to see if it's worth it. But it could be part of our future. It's definitely in use quite a bit throughout the state and other areas. So it's just a matter of, is it the right thing for us and our location? That's still being worked out.
Right, and if the aquifer, especially with GWRS pumping treated water back into the aquifer and topping it off, that makes a difference too.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And that's why that's that balancing act, because we have such a great aquifer system and we already have this built-in recycling. That adds into the weighing of is this something we should pursue or not?
Right.
And that's what really those elected officials are trying to weigh and discern what's the best decision for the future.
Right.
And because decisions today, you start thinking about 20 years down the road, and that's just like us having our groundwater wells too. That was a visionary decision of the past to think about the future, and that's paying great dividends.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So what about PFAS, which is something I knew nothing about until about 6 months ago, and now it's a hot topic.
It definitely is. PFAS. It's that's the acronym, and it's made up of these different chemicals. It's kind of a new emerging contaminant. It's been around for a long time. It's really, the way I kind of visualize it, it was the Teflon coating back in the day from the 60s and the 70s, and they used it in firefighting foams, but just all of these different protective Teflon coatings. And they don't use it anymore, but that chemical seems to somehow last. And it's entered into our water systems, and it's something that we're tracking. Like for example, some locations where they've detected it, they've had to turn off the water, turn off their groundwater wells and build a treatment plant now to remove this. We're not in that situation, you know, fortunately, but other agencies are. But what we are in is a kind of a very high vigilance in terms of making sure we test for it and try to find it, and then if we do find it, then to take action to remove it from our water. Yeah.
Right. I think some residents are not aware of, kind of going back to the infrastructure side, of the connection from their home to the sewer line. So they have the line from their house, and then it's a city line. And how does that work if there's an issue?
Sure, sure. So the city generally owns everything that's in the street and usually under the sidewalk too. Or if you have an alley, it goes right up to the alley property line. And so we'll have our main pipe, and then we have what's called services, little laterals that stick out. One of them is providing fresh water, and then it stops at a water meter like this, and then it has a water meter box. And so we own everything in that box, and including that, and then including the water meter. And then beyond the water meter, it all becomes private property, and that owner owns that. And we get called out oftentimes when, you know, plumbers have a problem or something's going on in the house, and so what I would say is never be afraid to call us, you know, 644-3011, and we'll send somebody out there, especially if you have a plumbing or plumber problem, and we'll look to make sure everything on the city side is good. That's on the water. On the sewage, wastewater side, you know, when you flush your toilet, you have your piping system that goes through your house, and then right when it gets to the sidewalk area or the alley area, then it turns into public pipes. And we own and maintain those pipes that are in the street and in the alleys. And same thing, if you have a sewer blockage and you think it might be on the city side, you know, just call us and we'll send out a crew out there. We would rather know and try to take action or guide you with where the responsibility lies or fix whatever's ours than to find out later on that there was some sort of problem that we didn't know about.
Right, right. So homeowners, they own their sewer line to basically the curb?
To the curb or to the sidewalk,
or
usually to the sidewalk. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
And then if it's in the alley, which we have a lot of alleys, and it's right up to the alley line, is where the homeowners own, and then after that it turns into the city property. And a lot of times you'll see a clean out. You see it's a triangle-shaped lid that's in front of their house or in the alley, and that's where our city sewer pipes begin.
Great.
Yeah. But don't be afraid to call us, I guess is what I would say too.
Right.
Is just because we'll go out there evenings or weekends. We go out all the time. We always have somebody that's we always have two people that's are on call. You know, that's how protective we are of the system. You know, to make sure. So we always have people ready for emergencies on call to be activated there, and we can remote access a lot of things as well too. Yeah.
Do you think we'll ever get to recycled water for gardening in a residential application, or is that just too much infrastructure to put in?
I think it's going to be very difficult to get to that level of that small homeowner use
Right.
of recycled water. I think a better bet is people can work with our building department to do their own water recycling systems in their own house.
Oh,
right? You know, I mean, just
really?
like we were talking about in terms of boats, you can reuse some of your own gray water, this non-toilet water. There's ways to do that. You just got to work with our building department on. So you can maybe reuse some of your own. You can definitely put in the rainwater capture devices and things like that. But recycled water works best in kind of larger landscape areas. So in terms of bigger parks, which we have several of those, medians, sometimes homeowner association landscape areas and things like that. That works really well. And we have some of those. We have a portfolio of recycled water, and it's important to maintain that, and we're actually looking at ways to expand that as well.
Right.
But at the micro level of each home, it becomes difficult. There's ways to do that, but the cost of getting that infrastructure there is very expensive.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So, well, you know, interestingly enough, this is Water Conservation Month, right? And I'm participating, and we all are, in the National Mayor's Challenge for water conservation, and we're competing against our neighbor to the southeast, Laguna Beach. They're in a different category, but and we're competing about. It's really about people signing up to take the water challenge and just pledging to do more to conserve water, and that's online, and it's all started with the artist Wyland down there in Laguna Beach, and it's really important at this juncture in California. We're going to continue to have these droughts, and it's most likely going to be sort of the future. And with that in mind, I suppose we'll potentially go back to, and we are now, a tiered water system in terms of rates.
Well, our rate structure is a uniform rate, but as we get into droughts, then some of those rates will change, and
Right.
so that's what we've been working on as well. And you know, I think we were kind of touching upon, you know, in terms of a future drought, and you know, we had a dry rain year this year.
Yes.
We filled up, you know, a lot of our reservoirs and things like that, but you know, the future is kind of uncertain, right? We need another good rain year next year, so we'll be hoping and praying for good rain, but there's a good chance that we might go into another drought cycle, and doing things now, you know, make a difference, and those are the things that people can do. I think taking that challenge, you know, think about what does that challenge do? That challenge brings a conversation to yourself and to your family members about using water wisely. And that's really kind of the main purpose of that is hey, make a commitment not to waste. And I think that's a noble effort, noble commitment, and people could really get around that pretty reasonably. Yeah.
Right. It's just the awareness factor and people really cluing in and taking it seriously. And I think the metering is going to be huge. I think you'll see a real difference in consumption as people become more aware. And you just could have it. It's going to be on an app and on your phone, and you can
Yep.
just see. And certainly checking it to make sure you don't have a leak.
Definitely. And some people may not want to check their own, but our system is going to detect leaks too. So then we can send you a notice saying, hey, we think you have a leak. This is how many gallons that have been, you know, flowing through all the pipes in the middle of the night. And of course, that doesn't mean you can't flush your toilet at night, but it just, you know, maybe it takes a couple days of where we notice what's called a continuous running of water.
Right.
And we'll save water and save you money at the same time. And yeah, it's a good thing. Yeah.
It's great.
I'll just show one more thing, Brad.
Yes.
I brought you here just kind of maybe a little paperweight here too, but you know, fire hydrants, you know, which is I would say kind of a very universal symbol for fire departments, you know, are something that we're heavily involved in. And that's one of the other recipes of a water system is to provide that drinking water. It's the first thing, which we've been talking about. But the other real main purpose is to provide water for firefighting. And that's why we have all of these fire hydrants. That's why we have to make sure we're pumping to these pressures, and we have all of this redundancy in place so that when the fire department needs it for a fire, it's ready to go. And that's really our second-handed purpose is firefighting flow. And anyway, so I just thought I'd bring you a token of that symbol.
So as we continue to grow, we've got to deliver fire hydrants and the amount of pressure they need for all this development continuously. That's going on every day, right? We're just reaching out. I mean, there's, you know, thousands of square feet being added, residential and commercial, in Newport Beach almost every day.
Definitely.
And it all needs to be defended.
It all needs to be defended, and it all gets calculated in terms of how much water each property needs for potable use and for firefighting flow.
Right.
And so we're heavily involved in that too. We're the back of the house, right? Making sure that we make sure that the pressures are there.
Right.
So when it's called upon, it's ready to serve and ready to activate. And our pumps are on standby. So if one pump gets overwhelmed, the second one kicks on. All those kind of systems in place. In fact, I'd like to invite you on a tour one of these days, and maybe we'll get you back there
I'll
to show
take you up on it.
turn a few wrenches as well, too.
Great. I'm sure, U.S. measure wrench, not metric.
Yes, yeah.
Right. So,
yeah, standard inches. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So when there's a big housing development or a big commercial development, I imagine quite often they'll do a pressure test and figure out whether they can use existing infrastructure or whether they have to bring a bigger line, something across the highway, something, and that would all be on the developer, whoever's putting that together.
That's right, that's right. So when they propose a new development, then they have to calculate how much water they need, and then we test the pressure, and we test what's called a fire flow to see how much water we can deliver to them in a fire scenario. And if they match up, they're in good shape. If they don't, then they'll have to upgrade a piece of pipe that's probably in our system to get them the flow that they need.
Right.
And that'll be on the developer to do, and they upgrade it, and we work closely with them, Public Works and the building department. And that's when, and the fire department, all of us agencies get involved, and that's really, I think, the neat thing, the partnership between departments where it's not siloed, where we talk and work with the whole purpose of serving, you know, what that business or that homeowner needs. Because even on homes, they need certain fire flow requirements and things like that, because you think, you know, any new home being built now has fire sprinklers.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then I imagine you've got a list, a plan for replacing infrastructure. There's probably some old pipes you'd love to replace. and there's a ranking and ordering of all that and what comes up and budgeting for it and looking down the future.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, the other part of our world is planning for the future, and that is analyzing what you have now and how long is it going to last and when you need to replace it. That's what we call our capital improvement program, our master plan. So that's a partnership between the utilities department and Public Works. And the key is that we do need to keep reinvesting into our system by replacing the things that have been are out of service or just out of their useful life. And we're doing a lot of that. I mean, we're pumping in over $7 million a year in pipe replacement or pipe rehab. Right, sometimes you can use different technologies to rehab something as opposed to replacing. So we're doing that, and we have a lot of challenging areas too. It's not easy. If you think of your let's say you live in an alley situation too. I always think of all of the things that are in the alley are basically a big spaghetti of pipes. And so when it comes time to replace those, then we got to thread the needle through there to replace those pipes.
Right.
One of our other big challenges is all of the pipes that are under our harbor. So when you think about the islands and the peninsula, you know, all of these things have to intertwine and connect through redundancy. So we have many pipes that are underwater in the harbor, and a lot of those are scheduled for replacement, and we're working on those right now. In fact, City Council just approved you know, a design of replacing a bunch of those pipes too, and they're not easy to replace. But that's the future, and I think a well-managed system includes replacing what you have, you know, especially as it gets old.
Right, and you see some cities are better than others at doing it, and those that aren't so good are experience quite often failures.
Definitely.
And it's really disruptive.
Definitely, and then, you know, one of the other benefits when you think about a city owning its own water utility is the partnership that's created with other projects that the city has an interest in. So for example, we're doing a lot of undergrounding projects, or we're doing street replacement projects. So when we own and maintain the same, us as a city, we own the water and sewer, we can partner better on those projects. And so let's just say we're going to pave this street, but that pipe maybe is not due for replacement for 3 more years. But then again, when we start thinking about it, saying, hey, well, what if maybe it's a good investment to replace that now because we have a street project in place. So you imagine the amount of synergy that we create with owning our own utilities and trying to do it once and better for the community. That's really gives us a lot of satisfaction. Boy, if we can do, you know, 3 or 4 things under one umbrella, it makes me smile.
So this is why I say all the time, we live in an incredible city, and I think all residents know that. But I'm really speaking of in that comment, the people that work at the city, our management of the city, we're just so fortunate to have these departments that work so well together. And they've been created because they've been carefully planned, I believe, by previous councils and previous administrations. And it's just been continuous quality of life improvements all the time and looking forward. And this is the bottom of the pyramid that makes a city great and protects the quality of life for residents, and obviously supports to a huge degree home values, because people recognize that. They see it. You literally see it, and in the case of utilities, a lot of times you don't see it, but it's there. And of course, the water supply is so important to the city for its safety, its reliability. And Mark, thank you so much for leading the department and doing such a great job, you and your team. How many employees?
We have 55 employees in our utilities department, and yeah, a great group of people. And you know, I always like to throw out this little comparison. In a lot of sense, you know, I know we have a lot of pet-friendly people out there too. So in a sense, we're like dogs, like good dogs. There's a lot of different varieties. But you know, some of our best work, we like to bury, just like the dogs like to bury a bone, and we like to bury this work, and you never see it, and that's a good thing, you know. And
yeah.
That's what makes it exciting and fun for us, because it's we know where all those bones are buried.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have those good dogs on our side. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for
Appreciate it.
inviting me.
Yeah.
Thank you.